Once again, a very warm welcome to all our participants, delegates, speakers, panelists, and dignitaries to the 9th day of the International Entrepreneurship Summit, AVLOKAN 2.0. There is but one God who is self-illuminated, the creator of knowledge, wisdom, and intellect, the one who relies on truth. And this God is known as Guru, the teacher, the preceptor, the dispeller of ignorance, spreading light to millions of minds. On this note, I invite Professor Vaishnavi to impart our branding guru, Dr. David Aaker, a soulful, devotional welcome with Guru Vandana, and Dr. Abhishek Venkateshwar for the interpretation of the same.
Thank you, ma'am. Akhandamandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai shri guruve namaha.
The Guru, whose form is one whole, which is indivisible, present everywhere, pervades in everything. The Guru, who has seen the feet of the Lord, he who has experienced oneness with the ultimate. Salutations, O blessed one.
Ajnanatimirandasya Jnanam Janashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
He who removes darkness of ignorance of the unenlightened by applying the ointment of knowledge. He who opens the eyes. Salutations into that Holy Guru.
Thank you so much to both of you for such a soulful Vandana. It is indeed an apt form of greeting to a Guru like Dr. Aaker. As the entire ambience is filled with the devotional vibes, let's welcome our most awaited speaker. On this note, I invite Summit convener Dr. Varsha Agarwal to present to us a legendary speaker of the session. Over to Dr. Varsha.
Thank you, Dr. Shiva. Before I introduce our esteemed speaker of the session, I'm reminded of a quote by Warren Buffett that says, "Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." When it comes to concept of branding, we get inspired by the legend who planted the seeds of modern branding, what we thrive on today. And he is none other than Dr. David Aaker. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a glad welcome we bring to you this evening, filled with desires, hopes, and dreams. We all share the presence of such a great personality is truly a blessing. I'm sure all of us will have a lot to take back from this session today. Dr. David Aaker, popularly known as the father of modern branding, serves as vice chair at Prophet. He's a recognized authority on branding who has developed several recognizable concepts and has received numerous awards for his contributions to the science of marketing. Aaker is the creator of the Aaker model, a marketing model that views brand equity as a combination of brand awareness, brand loyalty, and brand associations. The model outlines the necessity of developing a brand identity, which is a unique set of brand associations representing what the brand stands for and offers to customers an aspiring brand image. Aaker primarily sees brand identity as consisting of 8 to 12 elements which fall under 4 perspectives: brand as product, brand as organization, brand as person, and brand as symbol. In 2015, David Aaker was inducted into the American Marketing Association Hall of Fame for his lifetime achievements in marketing. Aaker has authored and published hundreds of articles and 17 books, including Owning Game-Changing Subcategories, Uncommon Growth in the Digital Age, Aaker on Branding, 20 Principles that Drive Success, Brand Relevance, Spanning Silos, Brand Portfolio Strategy, Building Strong Brands, and many more. His books have been translated in 18 languages and sold over 1 million copies. His words and teaching have offered guidance and inspiration to marketing leadership at many of the world's leading brands. In the words of Joseph V. Tripodi, Chief Marketing and Commercial Officer, Coca-Cola, David Aaker has truly given the business world a gift. David is an active branding consultant, professor emeritus at the Haas School of Business, UC Berkeley, and a revered speaker and thought leader. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have stars in the sky and one right here before us. We are honored to welcome one of the brightest stars the marketing world has seen so far. A long pending desire has been fulfilled today with the presence of Dr. David Aaker. Fellow members, please join me in giving our guest the most cordial of welcomes. Over to you, Dr. Aaker.
Thank you. So can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Well, I'm honored to be here, and I'm excited about your event. I'm going to talk about how branding plays a role in disruptive innovation, which is what entrepreneurship is all about. And that's kind of my role, is to take a branding perspective, which usually is left out. Let me start by answering the question that was just posed to the group about sort of what's going on in the sustainability world. We also can call, instead of sustainability, you can call it ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And that's a term that was started about 15 years ago. And that is a descriptive term that includes what's going on in that arena. And let me take a branding perspective. And in fact, I'm just finishing a book that will be out next fall that is about the concept of a signature social program. And there's really four kind of branding elements that I think are not emphasized enough when we talk about sustainability and ESG. First is that having a social program is no longer a nice to have. It's an imperative. You have to have it. You have to have it because there's a need out there that firms are well suited to address, and governments cannot do that by themselves. Governments are not agile enough. Governments are not close enough to the problems. And so there's a role for business. And people are realizing that, and employees are insisting on it. Especially younger employees don't want to go to a company that's just in there to make sales and profits. They want a higher purpose. They want a social purpose. And many customers are in the same way. It may not be a huge number of customers, but it doesn't take 10 or 15% of the customers can mean the difference between being very profitable or struggling. Investors even insist on it. And does the public at large. And so your brand as an organization really depends on that. The second thing is that you need to communicate what you do. you need to communicate your passion, you need to communicate your commitment, you need to communicate your impact. And how do you do that? Well, most environmental programs involve your operations. They involve things like reducing the use of energy, reducing the use of water, reducing waste, and those kinds of things are, first of all, similar across all companies. It's hard for yours to stand out. They're almost never branded, so it's hard to communicate. If you look at governance, those are just things that you're not supposed to do bad things. You're not supposed to hire slave labor. You're not supposed to mistreat your employees. It's not very inspirational. And even among social programs, a lot of them turns to be grants or volunteers of your employees. And that's not branded. That's not easy to communicate. So what I argue is that you need signature social programs that are branded. And you can use those brandeds to represent yourself, to be the flagship of your total ESG effort. And so you Salesforce.com, for example, I'll speak about in a few minutes. And they have a program 1-1-1, which is a branded total philosophy. Lifebuoy has Help a Child Reach 5. Dove has a self-esteem program. Those are all branded programs that are easy to talk about because there's stories that go with them, because there's emotion. There's people are empathetic to the social need involved, and people even get involved. And so you have to use those branded programs to tell your basic message. And when you come to manage those programs, all the branding tools we have come into play. You need to create awareness, you treat it in energy. You need to develop a profession. People need to know what your mission is. And you have to create involvement and loyalty and engagement. And those are all branding tools. And finally, there's a new element involved, and that is that you have to use this ESG effort, or this sustainability effort, or this CSR effort, whatever you call it. You need to use that to help your business. And that's a very delicate thing to do, because you don't want your authenticity to suffer, but yet it needs to help the business. Because if it does, that means the business is going to have a long-term commitment, can justify investing behind your program. And if it doesn't, it will be just a dead cost. It will be vulnerable. It will not get sort of vitality, innovation, the organizational skills behind it. And to do that, how is it going to help the business? Well, the main way it helps the business is through the business brand. It's going to give the brand visibility. Lifebuoy Reach 5 program for Lifebuoy in India, they had 3 videos that explained the program in 3 villages. They got 44 million views. Now that's visibility and energy you could never get by talking about bar soap. And it can affect perceptions. So the perception of Lifebuoy as a company that's only interested in selling bar soap is completely changed with Help a Child Reach 5. And it creates ongoing loyalty, and the sales of Lifebuoy are dramatically affected by this program. So anyway, I think what's missing in a lot of the discussion on ESG is branding. And you need a signature brand, and you need to use branding tools to do that. Now, this is an entrepreneurship program, so I'm going to talk now about entrepreneurship, and you'll see that the whole concept of an EGG program and signature social programs will play a role. So I'm going to share my screen and talk about branding's role in disruptive innovation. And let's see, I need to advance the screen. I got to figure out how to do that. Can any,
Yeah, it's proper, sir.
how do I do that?
It's good, sir, now.
It's what?
Yeah, it's good now.
Huh. Okay, I guess I can do it, but I can't do it when it's full screen. Oh, there I did it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. We're good. I'm always amazed when this works. So let me just talk about digital or innovation, disruptive innovation, and tie it into the concept of a healthy ESG program. And because I think this is really the heart of entrepreneurship. And it all started when I did a lot of work in Japan, and I got a hold of Japan's beer data. And I noticed that over 35 years, the market share trajectory only changed 4 times, and they all were because of disruptive innovation. Started with Asahi super dry beer in 1986. So I looked at the computer industry, I looked at the automobile industry, and I looked at a bunch of other industries, and I came to the same conclusion. The only way to grow, well, there's some rare exceptions, but the only way to grow really is to own a game-changing subcategory. And to do that, you need disruptive innovation. And in particular, the more conventional thing is incremental innovation, and my brand is better than your brand marketing is not a growth route. Just never ends up in growth. And if you're an entrepreneur, that's the name of the game. That's why you're there, right? Is to grow. And digital has put game-changing subcategories on steroids. They have more impact. There's more of them. They grow faster. We've always had growth driven by new disruptive subcategories. Always have had that, going back 100 years. But in the last 2 decades, there's been so much more frequently. They have so much more impact, and they happen faster. It's and there's several reasons for that. One is digital technology. It isn't too long ago we didn't have GPS, we didn't have smart factories, we didn't have the Internet of Things, didn't have artificial intelligence, big data, or voice recognition. So all these digital technologies provide vehicles for disruptive innovation. And you look at market access. It wasn't too long ago that if you had a disruptive innovation that you wanted to introduce to the marketplace, you either needed a personal sales force if you were a B2B company, or you needed access to retail if you were a consumer company. And you needed an advertising program. You needed to go into print, or you needed to go on television. That took tens of millions of dollars off, and it took almost a year to pull off. But look where we've come. And now we've got websites. You can literally be in the marketplace in a week. We've got e-commerce. You can literally communicate to your audience in a week. And we have e-commerce. So you can literally have your customers ordering stuff in a week. It's not a year anymore. And that's one reason this disruptive innovation have. So what I'm really doing is pick, I'm on top of hundreds and hundreds of books on disruptive innovation. The Blue Ocean Strategy, Michael Porter, Mark Simpson, Clayton Christensen and Tom Kelly and so many more that have made such a contribution. But if you look at all these books, there's something missing. And that's branding. You read those books and you see nothing on branding. So the point of my book, Owning Game-Changing Subcategories, is to introduce branding into disruptive innovation. Well, so how do you win in that new competitive world? Well, you first have to create must-have, something that customers must have. And that's either going to be a new or superior buying or use experience, or a new or superior meaningful brand relationship. But it has to be compelling. It has to be must-have. Salesforce.com was a disruptive interviewer in the software space. And they created cloud computing 21 years ago, 22 years ago. And cloud computing as a new subcategory had some must-haves. There was little investment required. You didn't have to buy this huge software package anymore. There was ongoing upgrades. You didn't have to once a year shut down your whole company for 2 weeks while they were upgrading. And then in the meantime, wait for a whole year to enjoy the ongoing upgrades that were occurring. Because they were ongoing. They were in the cloud. They were in the background. You didn't have to shut down your company, and you got up-to-date upgrades. And it was reliable because they had redundancy and they had all kinds of software controls so that your software would be safe. Because that was a big barrier for people adapting cloud computing. But they did more. There was a founder story around Salesforce. From the time Salesforce started in 1999, they had an ESG story. They had a social program story, and it was branded. It was a signature story. It was 1-1-1. It meant that 1% of the people's time, 1% of the product, and 1% of the equity of the whole company was devoted to serving society, to addressing society needs. So there was a founder story about this, how the founder, Mark Benioff, he took a sabbatical. He went to India. He got a guru in India, a real guru, not a branding guru, a real guru. And that person taught him that you can be in a commercial exercise and still do good. So when he came back, he started this company in an apartment with 5 other people. He started Salesforce, and he started it with the idea that we are going to help society as well as make money. And he looked around for companies that were doing this, and he took the best ideas of different companies, and he developed the 1-1-1 model. So there's real substance behind his promise. And today, that 1% of that early company is worth a lot of money, and it's doing a lot of good. And not only 1% of his people's time is spent doing good, but it's more like 3%. And not only 1% of his product, but it's more like 4 or 5% of his product that they use the Salesforce software to help nonprofits do social good. So now we have a subcategory that's defined as cloud computing and doing social good. So if somebody were to duplicate the cloud computing part of Salesforce, they still would not participate in that new subcategory because it also has a social a factor to it. So what we have is a subcategory is defined by these two things. It's the combination of those things. And this is quite common, that it's people are looking for sort of must-haves that they can own going forward. And a social program can be one of those. A social program can do so much for your entrepreneurial idea. So the second thing that is needed to be successful in creating disruptive innovation is branding. To have an exemplar brand that will position, scale, and trait barriers. The four challenges. First of all, you need a brand that will represent the subcategory. You need, the job one is to create your brand as the exemplar brand. You can do that in a couple of ways. You want to be the market leader. That's a really highly desirable, the one that owns 80% of the market or 90% of the market. But you also can do it by being a subcategory thought leader. Show passion for the product arena, to be the innovator. That's incidentally how you can compete with some giant retailers or giant e-commerce companies, because they don't have any passion for anything. They're just functional. They're just trying to be efficient about giving you access to products. So there's a company, a sleep mattress company, that there's mattress companies all over the place, retailers, e-commerce that sell mattresses, but there's one company, Casper, that's about sleep, not mattresses. They have a passion and knowledge. They're a thought leader about sleep. And that creates a whole new subcategory within mattresses. The Dollar Shave Club created its own subcategory in the e-commerce role of selling razors. And they were the irreverent, funny upstart. They ridiculed the old brand. They're the feisty underdog. They created a video, a 3-minute video that was hilariously funny, that was shared all over the place, that got 1,800 subscribers in 2 days' time. They started the company with that. They now, 4 years later, they sold the company for $1 billion. But it all started for their able to start this whole new subcategory and become its exemplar. It's not job two, position the subcategory. So Salesforce did all these cool things to create a subcategory that was not only, nothing to buy, maintain, continuous upgrades and secure, but it was cool. It was advanced. It was not obsolete. And it had the 1-1-1 social program. Wall Street Journal in December 1999, 6 months after Salesforce started this stuff, had a headline: Salesforce takes the lead in the latest software revolution. That's being an exemplar. And can you imagine cloud computing, one of the most phenomenal new subcategories created in the last half century? The third job is to scale, scale, scale. You want to build a customer base. And you want to do that in part by over-investing at the outset. In marketing, we used to teach people pricing. For entrepreneurship, pricing has two options. One is to be a skimmer. You put a very high price on your product to recover all your costs of development. While you are the owner of the of this kind of disruptive innovation, and then later on, you lower the price and sell it to the larger market. Can't do that anymore. There's no thought to starting out with a high price. You have to overinvest. You have to forego profits. And Amazon has done that really well. They haven't shown profits for 20 years because they're building their operations. You can scale using social media. I already mentioned the Dollar Shave Club. They've got 1,800 subscribers in 2 days. And because they created a video that went live, incidentally, that video cost $3,000 to make. We're not talking about $20 million. We're talking about creating a story, such a content that it explodes. That's what Lifebuoy Help a Child Reach 5 did when they introduced these videos in India and got 44 million views. So I wrote a book called Creating Signature Stories, which really tells you that the way to communicate is not with facts and descriptions, which people just ignore, or if they don't ignore, they counter-argue. You have to do that with a story that's strong enough to go viral, to activate social media. So in these days, if you want disruptive innovation, you have to think big, you have to go fast, you have to scale. Finally, the job of an exemplar brand is to build barriers. Now, we've already seen a couple of barriers. If the strength of the must-haves it leads to the positioning of the subcategory in the exemplar brand, that's a big barrier. Because if a customer comes to the marketplace and wants one of these must-haves, the exemplar brand is going to be in a powerful position. It's going to be hard for others to become relevant. The base of the loyal customer that we get from scaling is a big barrier because all the good customers are gone when competitors try to enter. But there's some other barriers. We can be a continuous innovation moving target. So if we want to stand still so it's easier for people to imitate and become relevant, we instead just continually innovate, become a moving target. That's what Prius did. Prius owned the subcompact hybrid market for over 12 years. They had no competition for 12 years. And part of that was because every year they innovated, they changed, they added stuff to their product, made it better. Where you can have a branded innovation. Look at the retailer, the Japanese retailer Uniqlo. They created a fabric called Heat Tech, heat generating clothing that was lightweight, created heat to warm you up in the wintertime. The only place you can get Heat Tech is at Uniqlo because they own the brand, and other retailers, other clothing manufacturers copied the basic idea, but they didn't own the brand. They have Airism, which is something for the summertime, a breathable layer that releases heat and moisture. And they have Lifewear, which is a whole different style. The only place you can get Heat Tech, the only place you can get Airism, the only place you can get Lifewear is at Uniqlo. So Uniqlo has created a whole new subcategory of clothing retailing. And these are some of the must-haves. And they have others. It's stylish, it's not trendy, it's a breathtakingly low price, but it also has this technology. It's not just a cheap place. There's another kind of barrier, and that's brand communities. A brand community is a group of people that have a shared involvement or even passion in an activity, issue, or interest area. And it has an exemplar brand website as the focal point. So shared involvement or even passion in an activity, interest, or interest area, all centered around the exemplar brand website. The classic example is Harley-Davidson motorcycles, which was done before social media, before websites. It was done in the 70s and 80s, where all these motorcycle riders shared ideas about events and motorcycles, and they shared a real passion. There's a brand called Etsy. It's a hobbyist brand, a crafter's brand, people that make things like jewelry or other things that are very unique. And Etsy became a global marketplace. And they created this for their unique handcrafted pieces. And so Etsy allows people that make crafts, and also people that that buy crafts, to join a team, to get advice, to be inspired, and they join a community, and they do this through the Etsy marketplace and website. And so on there, you get introduced to crafts, and you get to know them, you know their backstory, and you know something about their products. And that's a community. And once you have a community like that, it is really hard. And Amazon wanted to break into the Etsy market. They created a craft site on Amazon. It didn't work. There's no way that they could match this community. Sephora has a beauty insider community. You can join groups, you can talk about beauty, ask questions, post answers, be part of conversation. You can be inspired by seeing pictures of others that have used beauty products. You can chat live. You can discuss products and other shoppers in real time. You can get advice, read reviews, share your own recommendations. You can give advice. You can see community advice. What's on the calendar? What's going on? And of course, Sephora is part of the community. They're an active member of the community. So they're not talking to you about as a manufacturer of beauty products. They're talking to you as a member of the insider community. So what a brand community does is give you social links to like-minded people. It gives you the feeling of belonging, which is one of the basic needs of everybody. It gives you a brand involvement and a way to be loyal to a customer that represents a very high level of loyalty. So let's just come back. The only way to grow is to create new subcategories that change what people buy. And to be an exemplar brand, to position, scale, and create barriers. And you have to note, disruptive innovation needs branding. Disruptive innovation heretofore really has neglected branding. And it's really vital to the success. You have to know what you stand for. You've got to position not only your brand, but the whole subcategory. You've got to scale that subcategory, and you got to create barriers. And in doing so, one of the must-haves is going to be, going forward, social programs. And within social programs, everybody needs an environmental program, but that's not really the way to stand out. That's not really the way to demonstrate that you have passion about doing good socially, to addressing social needs and social problems and social issues. That's not going to work, and neither is giving grants and volunteering. You need really branded social programs that that are that cause empathy, that are visible, that have stories behind them, and that impact, that really make a difference. And you have to be able to own them, and the brand is the key to that. So that's my story. The branding's role in disruptive innovation. It's around my last book, Owning Game-Changing Subcategories, but it's also around the book that I'm just finishing now, which is going to be called Signature Social Programs and 7 branding must-dos. So we've gone from must-have to must-dos. Anyway, I'm so glad to be here. I look forward to chatting with you and answering some questions you might have and being part of the conversation.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. With your permission, we will be taking some of the questions from our participants. Yeah. So the first question is, with FB and Amazon becoming mega platforms, are product and service brand becoming irrelevant? You want me to paste the question, sir? I can do so.
Well, are they on chat?
Just a second, sir. I'll do so. This is the first question.
Oh, okay. I can see part of a question there.
Yeah, this is the question, sir.
Oh, okay. Facebook and Amazon being many product and service brands becoming irrelevant. No, they're even more relevant than ever, because if you're competing against Amazon, if Amazon is in your space, you need a strong brand to be seen in the Amazon world. And not only that, but you need a strong brand if you're going to compete against the Amazon world. In my book, I have a chapter that talks about the 6 or 7 ways you can compete against Amazon. And they're all brand related, and they all involve things like signature stories. It's I talked about one already, the mattress company that has a passion about sleeping, the Casper brand, and Amazon doesn't have passion about anything. Amazon is just functional, it's transactional. So that's one way to compete. I talked about another, Dollar Shave Club, that competes about being irrelevant, by being funny, by being humorous, by ridiculing the big guys like Amazon and the big retailers. Amazon can't be funny. I mean, is anybody ever laughed at anything Amazon done except to ridicule it? So you have the whole option of being humorous. Amazon doesn't have that option. You have the whole option of being a feisty underdog. Amazon can't be that. It can't have that personality. Amazon doesn't have any personality.
We have next question. I have pasted it here for your convenience. I'll read it also. Question from Mr. Sresh Podar. Evolving our product portfolio to give the customers an ambitious, greater choice and flexibility in the pursuit of wealth, will that help them make a bigger and better brand?
I think the whole concept of the brand portfolio is a complicated one, and I once wrote a book called Managing or Strategic Portfolio Management or Portfolio Strategy. It's very complicated, brand portfolios, and what you if you want to have a new kind of service or a new feature to your product, the question is, how do you brand it? And does your existing brand stretch to cover it or not? And if it doesn't quite stretch, maybe you need a sub-brand, or maybe you need an endorsed brand, or maybe you need a new brand. And that question is, you can't, one of those answers is not always right. You have to study the situation, and it's very complicated. It will depend on your business strategy going forward. It'll depend on your brand vision going forward. It'll depend on whether the master brand that you have will help the new entry, and will the new entry help the master brand. So sometimes it's an easy decision. Yes, it'll help both directions. And other times it won't. And sometimes you have to make compromises. You have to say, well, we're going to do it anyway, because from a business model point of view, it's important that we do that. I mean, Mercedes came out with a small car, and it was kind of against their brand, but from a business model, they had to do it, and it turned out successfully. So it's very, very complicated. There's no general answer to the question of how do you brand a new version of your offering.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is from Mr. Jinesh Kumar. He asked, is current technological advancement creating a branding rush? If yes, how to stand out from all?
Well, you stand out by not trying to be better than another competitor, but to create a whole new subcategory. So it's a different thought process. You don't want to be in the business of incremental innovation. I mean, incremental innovation is fine and has a role in business strategy, but that shouldn't be your only vehicle to compete. You also want to create whole new subcategories. And then you stand out by being the exemplar brand, by positioning a subcategory, by scaling and creating barriers. And this question suggests another issue, and that is that one of the things you want to do is to brand your advancements, to brand your new ideas, like Uniqlo did with heat tech. However, there's also the danger of branding too many things. In a high-tech company with engineers that are so proud of their little advance, they brand sometimes too much. And then you get too many brands, and you get brand clutter, and you get confusion, and you get sort of complexity. And so you sometimes have to simplify and just have a few really key brands.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question comes from Mr. Praveen Kumar. He asks, is customer equity a real thing? Do you see any shift in preference of businesses to invest upon these two?
Well, I don't use the term customer equity. To me, brand equity is three things. It's awareness, energy, relevance. It means people are aware of you when they think of a particular need, and in your credible offering. The second thing is perceptions. It's what your brand does, what it stands for, not only in terms of functional benefits, but also emotional and social benefits. And third, it's brand loyalty. And to me, customer equity is that third thing. It's brand loyalty. So it's an important part. You want customers that are engaged. You want customers that view what you offer as and own as must-haves. And you want customers to be part of a brand community. So I think that's part of building brand equity.
Yeah.
Why owners of big brands losing huge amount of their net worth? How will it impact brand equity? I'm not sure. What brands are using huge amount? Are you talking about the little downturn last week in the Netflix and so on, or what?
They're particularly talking about brand equity regarding the high net worth brands.
High net worth brands.
Yes.
You mean like Amazon and Microsoft?
Yeah, like Forbes.com, they have referred to, and they also want to ask regarding brand equity, how it will impact brand equity.
You mean when their stock price falls?
Yes, when big brands lose huge amount of net worth, how it impacts their brand equity.
Well, that's really interesting. I did several studies to indicate that brand equity drives stock return. And so if your equity goes up, stock return will go up. And stock return generally has very little effect on brand equity. But there are exceptions. I mean, General Electric for a long time had a strong brand because the stock did well consistently over time. So people sort of took away from that there was an acceptance of what General Electric was making, that and it was a successful stock, so it must be a successful jet engine. So they thought well of their jet engines. So I think that the long-term performance of a stock can have an effect of the brand equity. The stock is just always drifting lower or flat. People will assume, well, the product's probably not very exciting. And but I think short-term changes in stock price will have pretty little effect on brand equity. It might somehow affect the energy of the brand. And Netflix just dropped a lot recently. And so maybe some users will think, well, that it's less interesting, less energetic than it was 2 weeks ago. But I think it's probably going to have a minor effect.
One last question I will take now, sir, from our participant. Mr. D.S. Ray, he asked, do you think e-retailers like Amazon are giving importance to branding while fixing product portfolios?
I don't see the question anymore. Can you read it again?
Yes, sir. E-retailers like Amazon are giving importance to branding while fixing product portfolios.
I still don't understand. Amazon's fixing their own portfolio?
Yeah, just a second, sir. I'll just share this. Yeah. So this is the question.
I don't know what fixing product portfolios means. Amazon from the very beginning has been adding products to their portfolio. They started out as a book company and now they're in everything. And that's part of that's their thing. They're the place you can go for everything. They're the everything store. And so that's their perception and that's their value proposition. So when they add things that adds to that functional benefit, And therefore, it enhances their brand in terms of its ability to do that. So I think I'm missing something, but I don't quite understand the question.
Yeah. Sure, sir. We'll stop taking questions from our participants and like to invite few of my faculty members to recite some of the famous quotes given to the branding world by you, Dr. David Aaker.
Namaste, sir. A brand strategy can enable, sometimes crucially, the potential of an innovation to be realized. There are times when you literally need to brand it or lose it.
Branding adds spirit and soul to what would otherwise be a robotic, automated, generic price value proposition. Likewise, Dr. David Aaker adds spirit, a soul to the world of branding. He's the pioneer. Like how Vasco da Gama found India, Dr. Aaker found branding.
Creating signature stories, strategic messaging that energizes, persuades, and inspires.
Brand is not just a one-word phrase, but it's a multi-dimensional thing, and the dimensions will depend on the situation. These are words of wisdom gifted to the world of branding by Dr. David Aaker.
Thank you. Now, I would like, now we have a small video dedicated by our students for you, sir. Chavi, can you?
Is sort of my higher purpose in my professional life, and that's to help people build assets and to sort of neutralize the power of short-term financial.
So we hope you enjoyed the video. Now I would like to invite Professor Sunita Beacon to deliver vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Rasha. Dear Sir, on behalf of Center for Management Studies, Jain deemed to be University, I convey my heartfelt gratitude to you for accepting our invitation and giving us your valuable time and consideration in spite of your busy schedule. Sir, you have no idea how much your acceptance means to all of us. Thank you so much for making the dream of learning from you come true, not just for us, but for other 80,000 people watching us across the globe. It has been absolute privilege and honor to listen to your session, sir. Sir, I would like to thank you once again. Thank you so much.